The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to check out our affiliate sponsor, One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the avid podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services. All right, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Got another great guest. Of course, all my guests are great, so come on. And we're going to talk to Ken about the shift spot and all the stuff that he's been doing in his life. If you are listening on one of your favorite directories, be sure to leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, ring the bells, whatever you're going to do to allow us to keep bringing the content that we've been able to do. I think something like episode 285 plus today. So, Ken, I thank you for coming on. Let's run the credits, and then we'll get started with our discussion.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests, where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode. All right, Ken. So thanks for coming on the show today. For those of people who are watching us on YouTube, I apologize. I usually have I was telling you, I usually have a very nice background, and then I wore a shirt because my wife was like, you got to rotate your shirts. You're always wearing the same shirts. And I put on this green shirt, forgot what's going to happen with the green screen is my body's going to disappear. So
that would have been entertaining, though. See your little head pop around.
It would have been like, what was that thing growing up? It was like the talking head.
I forget, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, just a head. So that would have been funny. But anyway, I thank you for coming on the show. I was on your show. We've been talking back and forth, and we finally got this scheduled. So yeah, we were talking off mic. Maybe you want to go backwards and talk about your upbringing and all the things you've learned.
Yeah.
And then we can get into in the second half of the show about the shift spot and all the things that you're
doing. Awesome. So I love the name of your show, and I'll be honest, and I love how you kick it off about the accidental entrepreneur and how you talk about that.
Sure.
Because honestly, that was my childhood and what set my trajectory, right? So I grew up in 3 generations of entrepreneurs. I was the only guy that didn't do that right out of the gates, right? So I grew up in Indiana, and as an 9-year-old, believe it or not, I was working in the cornfields and doing stuff. And I know that as an attorney, that breaks a lot of labor laws and everything.
Yeah,
but when there's nothing to do and your dad has a bunch of farmer friends and you want to make some money, that's exactly what you do.
Of course.
But my father was an entrepreneur, right? And I saw him, my mom and him put all their money on Red 32. We had some great years and we had some horrible years, right? And just ups and downs. And as a matter of fact, I remember as a kid, we went away and we went skiing in Vail one time. And I remember sitting in these phenomenal restaurants with my little clip-on tie and eating lobster and all that stuff. And thinking,
Yeah.
it doesn't get better than this. I never
Right.
want to grow up. Right.
Yeah.
But, and then literally coming home and 3 or 4 months later, a business going under. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to ask your age. I think we're roughly the same.
Yeah. I'm
But do you ever remember
I'm
a
happy to-
restaurant called Chi-Chi's?
Chi-Chi's?
Yeah.
No. I don't remember.
It was a Mexican place.
Okay.
And they moved into right next door to my dad. And it
Okay.
was a big chain and put his Mexican restaurant, Pancho Villa, out of business. So I remember my mom coming to get me and taking me to the bank to withdraw money so we could pay the phone bill.
So
And,
that's what they had. They had a restaurant. They also had a farm.
No, his friends were farmers. I
Got
worked
it.
for
He
his
was in the
friends.
restaurant business. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Because
that was traumatic to me.
Is Mexican? Is that where the restaurant comes from?
Is Mexicans where what?
You said it was Pancho Villa's was your dad's restaurant?
That was the name of it, correct?
Was your dad Mexican?
No, he's not.
No.
He just
okay.
loved Mexican.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and he was a chef.
Okay. There you go. Was Pancho Villa a chain or a franchise or something?
No, it was not.
Got it.
Single
His own
mom and pop
restaurant.
store.
Privately owned small business.
Yeah. So I grew up seeing a lot of boom and bust and everything. And I saw my dad making a lot of mistakes. And I knew there were mistakes back then. So
Sure.
I graduated from Purdue University.
Nice.
And
Well, my son went to IU, so I won't hold that against you.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know until we started talking today. He
Okay,
actually
well,
lives
Big Ten
in
at least.
Minneapolis now. So yeah,
Yeah, let's not talk
Bloomington,
about the
Korea.
tournament this year.
Yeah. Well, you guys had did that kid Eddie? He went to the pros. He's going to the pros, right?
Yeah, I think so. I
He's
think
enormous.
so.
Yeah, biggest.
Yeah,
pro.
he is. Been nice for him to stay back one more year, but
Yeah.
what the heck? Yeah, I did not know that. Big Ten at
Yeah.
least.
There you go.
My father went to one semester of IU and failed out.
Okay.
So that tells you what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Right? So anyways, I've got 3 beautiful daughters. I live here in Sandy Springs, Georgia.
Okay.
And, seeing that as a kid, I knew that I didn't want to take that track immediately. I wanted to go out in corporate. I wanted to learn from some of the best and be groomed, if you will, and mentored and all that.
Now, Purdue's primarily an engineering school. But were you not an engineering student?
I started in that. I did not end in that.
Yeah, because they have business majors and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, actually, my dream was to become a corporate attorney someday. Never didn't do that.
You didn't
So,
miss on anything.
Yeah. So,
I got the corporate attorneys, and not the happiest people in the world.
yeah.
So, how did
I went to college.
But how'd you end up in Sandy Springs, Georgia? Was that
Yeah. All right. So, lived in Colorado for some time
Okay.
and raised some family there. And actually, that's honestly what started my career trajectory out there. So right after 9/11, as a matter of fact, your audience can, well, I'm not going to go over there and grab it. Right after 9/11, I closed a $40 million software deal with a company out there called Quest Communications. And
Yeah, sure. I remember Quest.
Yeah. Most people don't, but
That was what, 2001. So you're talking like 20, right? 2001 was
2001, November 2001.
20 plus years ago. Okay. 20
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
So after I did that, I was quite cocky, right? I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and insisted that they put me on their executive track, and they actually did.
Okay.
Right. So I learned a great deal through that. I went through their executive program and everything. And then for some time, I was in software and high tech specifically and did some pretty big things. So I've managed P&Ls up to $500 million. I've managed teams up to 450 across North America and internationally as well.
Right.
And about 8 years ago plus, I dropped out of corporate America and I started serving as a fractional CEO, COO.
Sure. To smaller businesses, right?
Yeah. And I wanted to take that big business experience and apply it to that. Right.
You definitely had big business experience.
Yeah.
About it. Right.
Yeah. So I worked at companies like Oracle and all that and had lots of great training and support.
Yeah.
And so as I was doing that, so my kids called me a fixer, and that's kind of what I became known as. I was primarily working with companies 15 and below and a lot of accidental entrepreneurs.
15 employees, 15 million?
15 million and below.
Got it. Gross sales. Okay.
So, and a lot of these folks were honestly accidental entrepreneurs.
Everybody comes on the show, Ken, and they say, this show is written for me. I'm the accidental entrepreneur. I'm like, yeah, you and 250 other people that have come up.
I'm the only one that's not.
Right, exactly.
I was purposefully not an accidental entrepreneur.
Right. Well, that's good. Yeah, exactly. But there's you recognize that there's a huge need because first of all, they can't hire people like you full time.
Yeah.
It's too expensive for them and they can't get that expertise. So
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
definitely. How did you start? So you come out of corporate, right?
Yeah.
How did you start building your business and saying, how do I find these businesses that, need my services?
I mean, fortunately, I was pretty connected, and
Okay.
so I got picked up pretty quickly. I mean, I was an advisor for several different boards. It was just introducing me to different
So
folks, and
networking,
literally
right?
I started billing. I
Yeah,
think it
that all
was
counts.
a month,
Right.
after dropping out
Right
and
away.
quitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I started working with a company that was looking to go to get some PE funding and everything, and assisted with them with that. And I gained some M&A experience, which has been fun. But yeah, so through that trajectory, I mean, I mean, the stories I've gotten, I'm sure you have heard them. I mean,
Right.
the people will start mowing lawns, and then suddenly they have crews, and then suddenly they have this monster of a company that.
Right.
It's out of control.
Yeah, they were good at mowing the lawn, but they're not so good at running the company. It's a
Yeah,
skill.
yeah. And I've had people literally ask me, "Hey, should I scale backwards?" Right? Because
Yeah.
I had more fun then.
Yeah, no, then it's not fun at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you work with hundreds of companies then?
Well, I honestly haven't tracked it, but it's been quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been quite a few, and across, boy, every industry. I mean, you name it. Believe it or not, legal. All right, so CPA firms. I mean, HVAC, mechanical, landscaping, online services, consulting services. You name it. I've kind of have seen them all, and what I can tell you, it's the same problems everywhere.
Right. Definitely. So that was, what year was that?
2016 when I started doing that.
Okay, but so no, it's been 7 years.
7 or 8 years, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have some, without giving away, private information? Do you have some good stories?
I do, and there's some sad stories.
Yeah.
But without giving away, the one that actually,
I stories to the people that are listening.
Yeah. So I had this young CEO that he had an online business that did like supplements and things of that nature. He was a phenomenal writer, and he was one of those guys that created funnels and things of that nature, right? So he's very good at that. And people would come to him to actually learn. And he had this supplement business, and he was late 20s, early 30s. And he called me up and he said, "Hey, I've got the COO of my business is running my company." And I think they were around $10 million in revenue. And you'll appreciate this more than most people, actually, because you're an attorney. $10 million in revenue. And it's like, we always agreed that if we got to a certain point where we outgrew each other, we'd go a different direction. But I don't know if I'm ready there yet. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's her. I'd like you to come in, kind of investigate, maybe coach her up, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, sure.
So I started that way. And literally 2 weeks into it, I was like, you got to fire her. You got to drop her.
Really?
Right. And you need to bring me in or somebody else. What's that?
This was his partner?
His COO.
Oh,
so so she, for the most part, ran the company. He was operating more as a visionary and everything.
But he owned the business.
That's correct.
Got it.
That's correct. And she did not.
Worse if it was two partners and you're like, you got to get rid of this partner.
Well, I've done that too.
Yeah.
that's a harder conversation.
For conversation, right?
Yeah. And that's when they say we don't have any paperwork to separate.
So an agreement. We don't have to buy selling.
Yeah, you've been there.
Yeah, big time. Fighting over spoons and recipes and Instagram pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I recommend this. And he's like, "Man, she's critical to the business. She has all these relationships. We just can't do it. We're going to have to unwind her slowly." I'm like, "All right, I advise against it. Here's why, but we'll do it. It's your call. I can only give you the information. It's your call."
Now, why did you tell him that he ought to get rid of her?
Honestly, the things that I've seen, the best way to summarize it is I felt that she was cancerous. She was actually working with the different department heads. She was kind of bad-mouthing him.
Got it. Like
putting him down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of allowed it too, which was the interesting thing.
Yeah.
So we unwind her, and then I got closer with the finance department, and I uncovered that she had embezzled roughly at $250,000.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. So she did that. We started going through everything. I mean, she's buying iPads for her family, flights for her family,
Nice.
I never knew this until that experience, but there's evidently a phone company that operates just with prisoners. I don't know if it's to record the conversations or what, but she had that line. And she was speaking to some prisoners. She had 5 different aliases.
What?
Right? Yeah. So we weren't even using her real name. So
God, so you just were like, listen, this isn't good. You should. Little did you know, all these things are happening underneath, and he has no clue.
He had no clue. We had no clue. So first we go to the attorney in Puerto Rico, right? Because that's where he was. He went there, years ago. It was they had benefits to opening a company where they're from a tax protection perspective, if you
type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they closed that down since. But we went there first, and they couldn't advise us because she lived. I don't want to get too in a different in state, right? In a specific state.
Okay.
So we then reached out to an attorney there, and the guy is like, look, you may spend $500,000 settling this or figuring this out. She could countersue for lots of different reasons.
Right.
Right. Your call. You may or may not win. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially when you deal with bad people that have aliases and they're in hiding like that, you just got to assume they're probably going to beat you somehow.
There's more than that. Right.
Yeah.
No question about
it. Yeah. So we walked away, and I helped him unwind the business, unpack the business, sell off some of his IP and his assets and everything.
Just wind down the whole business.
The whole business. And primarily because he was in healthcare, right? Or supplements and everything. So he had these distribution agreements with manufacturers that had certain specs and everything baked in, and there was all sorts of regulations, and she messed up those relationships. She hid information, lied, misled, and all that. So he actually tarnished those relationships. So he literally had no choice but to, unwind the thing or face other lawsuits based upon the predicament that she put in.
Is he just lucky that he met you? This would have continued.
I think honestly, yeah. I mean, I wish I was. I wish I was that good. Maybe I was. I mean, look, I was like 2 weeks in, fire the girl.
Were there other people that had come in and didn't say that, or you were really the first guy in the door?
I was the first guy that actually did this.
Yeah, so he just got lucky that he met.
Yeah, but it was sad. I mean, that's probably my worst. The second one is being with a couple, and the man was the CEO of the business. The woman was the chief revenue officer. It was myself and a couple others, and he got served his divorce papers in the leadership meeting.
Oh, God. That's not good. Yeah.
No, it's not good at all.
It's like a prophet, Marcus Lemonis moment when the two couples are like, oh, no, we're very happy and the business is going well. And they're really just suing each other. And
yeah.
So that must have made for a great meeting. Real good minutes for the corporate.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that case, did she leave the business, or did they start fighting over who's going to get what?
That couple?
Divorce papers, yeah.
Yeah, they ended up actually selling the business off and completely separating everything. So
yeah, so I guess, I mean, we're jumping around and stuff, but a lesson learned, right? And this is what my new book coming out, which should have been out months ago, but it's with the publisher now. It's called 10 Ways to Get Sued by Anyone and Everyone, a small business owner's guide to staying out of court. And a lot of it is about putting things in writing.
Amen, man.
You have to have an operating agreement. You got to have a buy-sell agreement. You got to have the hard discussions when you're getting along that, hey, if this isn't working out, or we find that you're stealing from the company or whatever, this is what happens. You have these mechanisms in place. So when someone like you come in and say, hey, this is a problem, let's go to the paperwork. And like you said before, they say, we don't have any paperwork.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to figure it out, with your hand tied behind your back.
Yeah.
Same with the lawyers. That's what the lawyer told you, right? What's he going to do? He's going to ask you, well, what does the agreement say? Well, there is no agreement.
There is no agreement.
It's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to cost you a lot of money, and you still may not win.
Yeah.
So I guess he just packed it in and said, you know what, let's just trash the company. And
unfortunately,
right? Did he stay?
There's so many sad stories like that.
Did he rebuild a new business in the industry, or did he just go to
honestly, I lost track at that point. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, there are 100,000 stories in the Naked City. Say. Okay.
What?
So where are we now?
Well, so after that journey, right? I looked at my father and I looked at all these entrepreneurs and accidental entrepreneurs that I've been working with over the years, right? And I saw all these common themes, such as, not using data to drive decisions, emotions, right? Poor leadership decisions or hiring decisions, right?
Yep.
Throwing bodies at problems versus systems and processes, right? Not understanding, financials and how to read financials, or developing KPIs to drive and guide the business.
They don't
Right?
even know what KPI means.
What's that?
They don't even know what KPI.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
About it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I saw these repetitive themes, and and quite honestly, I'd love to even hear more of your stories. But I would get these calls literally, and the people have heard this before, I apologize, but it's just amazing. I had this one kid, 26 years old, call me up, and he told me he created lenses for sunglasses, right, online. Okay. Owns a $10 million business, and he's 27, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Right. So, I asked him, I was like, well, how did you start this company? And he said, well, I was out snowboarding. My glasses broke and I couldn't afford new ones. And so I went home and I machine crafted lenses. And I don't know about you.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to be able to screw a light bulb in or change air filters, right?
Yeah.
But I can imagine if I had glasses, they'd have scratches on and never be able to see out of them, right? Yeah. So suddenly all of his buddies are asking for this to be done, and suddenly he has agreements in place with China and all these SKUs put together and everything. And he has this business. He's like, look, man, I have a $10 million company, but I hate my life, right? My employees hate me, right?
Really?
I think I'm making money, right? We have no systems in place. My people, they come and they go, and I'm always losing people. It was like, this stinks.
Just terrible. And 10 million was gross sales. He didn't know if he had any profit or anything.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyways, I kept seeing those things and working with those type of individuals, helping them out. I was like, I wanted to create something where we could help more. So thus we created the Shift Spot. Got it.
All right. Well, that's all good stuff. And you know what, Ken? I've been practicing for over 30 years, and I've been doing this podcast for 4 years. Everything that you're experiencing it's a constant theme in our entire life.
It is, man.
People make the same mistakes. They're afraid, they're either out of laziness or fear or lack of understanding. They don't do the things. Look, it's not rocket science. I mean, look, I want to pat us both on the back. We're really brilliant people, but it's not rocket science.
Well, some of us went to Purdue.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I forgot that. I went to Cornell, but I don't know. It was like I was on fire for 4 years, but whatever. So, it's unsuccessful people do the things. Successful people do the things. I just said this in the last podcast, that unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. Generally, it's not that they can't do it. It's just that they don't take the time. The information's there. The people like you are out there. The people like me are out there. Go to a lawyer. They don't want to spend and sometimes they fall into things, right? Just like the sunglass guy, and it got a little out of control. But if he had said, you know what, I got a good thing here. What can I do with this? And did some education and learn some things and see what people are doing to be successful. Yeah. He may have been in a different place when he met you.
Yeah.
Well,
here's
was there a success story there or?
Yeah, well, with that guy?
Yeah, the sunglass guy.
Yeah, actually completely turned things around, fixed the company, got it humming, brought in a full-time COO to replace me after that, and is in a much better spot.
And he's still in business?
But here's some interesting statistics, and I know you know these, right? So 98% of the companies out there are 100 employees or less, right?
Yeah.
89 are 20 employees or less, right? Most people think of small businesses being 1 to 3 people. That's most of the population.
Yeah, no, we drive the whole economy.
Yeah. Now think of this. 50%, I don't know if you've ever heard this, 50% of CEOs and business owners start learning on the job in the company they create. That was my father.
That makes sense. Sure.
So my father, right? So I've been through, training and education and all that, and you as well. My father taught himself about leadership. My father taught himself finances, operations and systems and negotiations and all that, right? So we got to look at that and then think about these statistics. 18% of companies fail their first year and 50% fail at year 5, right? So we've got a lot of—
And that doesn't include the ones that just struggle.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get through,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of brilliant people out there. I mean, our country's great because we're creative and we drive and create things, but we've got that, and we've got this a big group that are accidental entrepreneurs, and they teach themselves everything per
Right.
se, and some of them make it and some of them fail.
It's all right. It's all happening.
And quite honestly, I wanted to help whomever I could stop some of that madness.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about, right? That's what the podcast is. That's what I do as a business owner, just trying to help people get a better hold of their business and a better hold of what they're doing so they can have a better life and enjoy, what they're doing. So why don't we do this? We got to take a little commercial because I do get paid a little bit from sponsors, which is nice. And then we'll come back. We can talk about the Shift Spot and why you created it, what it's doing, and give people advice and, do's and don'ts and stuff like that. All right.
Sounds great.
Okay. I'm going to put you mute. Here's a word from our sponsors. Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running? AWeber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, AWeber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. AWeber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools, and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Maybe you're looking to get into podcasting, or you just want to market your business. Maybe you want to do it for enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts, as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets, and be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created especially for our listeners. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show. All right, Ken, we are back.
All right.
It's funny because we're going to talk about the Shift Spot and the community that you're building. I had this idea in the legal community. I shouldn't even put it out there. It's probably somebody's going to steal it. A while back when I had more of a firm, we were building systems to manage our practice. And I do now. I have a lot of automated. It's more marketing now than anything. Yeah. But so we were going to build this business. It was called Legal Pivot. And it was about, pivoting your practice to, because attorneys are terrible. I hate to say it. Terrible.
Attorneys are bad at business typically.
Yeah,
I know that you're not.
We get all legal training. We get no business training. Doesn't count for CLE.
Same with doctors as well.
Exactly. Right? That's why they're all selling their practices to hospitals and they're miserable afterward because they're not business. The problem with doctors and lawyers, the difference is between doctors have a lot more money than lawyers, so they can say, oh, I know this.
Some of them, unless you're family practice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But but they certainly have the ego to say, I can do this. I'm a doctor. If I could save people's lives, I could be in business. It's a different skill. So, all right. So tell me about the whole, I don't know, the metamorphosis is not the right word. Where the idea came from, the Shift Spot, how you kind of started building that, why, so forth.
Yeah. So it came after just dropping in and seeing all these common things happen over and over again. And I felt like, what's that movie? Groundhog's Day?
Yeah.
Right. I felt like I was waking up at 6:30 a.m. every single company I'd go in, right?
Same thing. Okay.
All right. And I could just rattle off. All right. So no one understands your vision. We're not setting expectations with people.
Right.
We don't know where we're going. We change direction every 3 weeks. I mean, it was just repetitive.
Go into the company, not knowing anything about them and say, let me tell you what's wrong here, probably. And you'd probably be right 8 out of 10, right?
Yeah, I mean, so here's something that's funny. So I've coined this term. I haven't heard anyone else use this. And companies such as HVAC, mechanical engineering, construction, landscaping, all of those, if you fit in that category, I've coined it the chaos industries, right? Specifically. And I had this conversation with a guy that owns an $89 million painting company, right? So
That's big. That's
a big painting company. Yeah. And when I went through this with him, he's like, "Oh my God, that's what I have." So here it is. Like, all right, so you're growing like mad. You've got great cash flow, and you keep thinking at each $5 million threshold, things are going to get easy. But everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. How did you know?
Of course. Because it gets harder, because you need new systems to operate, because you have to know your financials better, because one thing's off and, now your business is becoming siloed and they're not communicating.
Yeah.
People don't get. So $89 million. What is he, painting bridges? I mean,
he has big clients like Disney and things like that. Right. So big commercial businesses, right?
Got it.
But I mean, the guy he has a race car and all that good fun stuff, but it's the same thing. And he's working 12-hour, 15-hour days, and he's like, it's just maddening. I keep thinking we'll get past it. And I told him, and he's actually in our community. I'll keep his name out of it. But I told him, it's like, it doesn't get easy until you don't put the basics in place.
Right. It doesn't. You don't grow past it. It gets worse unless you do it properly. Yeah.
Yeah. Get the right people in. Right. A lot of people don't want to focus on that. Well, Tommy, he's my buddy. I mean, yeah, granted, he's late every day, never executes correctly, and we don't get any results from him. But I love the guy.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. I know, and that's fine. But just recognize what you're doing.
Yeah, and live with it.
Right. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I saw that everywhere. Right. And I was like, look, how do CEOs go out and how do they gather information? How do they improve and how do they grow? And there's lots of choices out there. There's EO, there's Vistage, you can bring in somebody like me. You can get a professional coach. You can get your MBA. You can do lots of different things. And I wanted to do something unique and different. I wanted to be able to meet the CEO wherever they were in their trajectory. I wanted to bring experts to them. And I wanted to help them solve their most difficult problems and give them the ability to do it when they want and how they want. So that's a community. It's unique. I mean, we did our alpha over a year ago, rolled it out. We've got quite a few members now, and it's exciting. We do 144 events during the year.
And it's for small business owners.
Yeah.
Not corporate CEOs.
No.
Yeah.
So our sweet spot is 100 employees or less, right? Yeah. And CEOs that are 10 years or less of CEO experience. Now, I've had people ask, why do you cap it at 10? We don't, right? I literally, there's a CEO in our group that's got 20 years of experience, but he wants to improve, right? And generally, once you gain that experience, your business has made it past the 1 year, the 3 year, the 5 year. You've got plenty of scars on your back. You probably have figured some stuff out. It doesn't mean that we can't help you.
Resources to help
you.
Yeah,
but our greatest value is I'm a newer CEO, the 1 to 10 year time frame.
Got it. So what kind of resources are they getting? I mean, obviously they're interacting with other people and they're learning and attending your events. So what do you do at events? You bring in speakers, you do slideshows. What are you doing?
Yeah, so I'll talk to you about just basically what the user experience is. So the very first thing they do is they fill out this gap analysis on their business, right? It's something that I've developed through the years. And it crystallizes and really helps them understand immediately what some of the areas of opportunity are within their company. So there's a ton of questions in it, but it looks at their finances, their ops, their sales, their marketing, IT, processes or lack thereof. And I've had some CEOs
SWOT analysis by looking at yourself.
Yeah. And we'll ask simple things such as, do you have financial controls in place? Well, first of all, what's a financial control? I don't know.
What a balance sheet is. You're not in good shape.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it will go through some of the basics and some of the hard things, such as also, how do you onboard employees? Well, we don't. Okay. Maybe that's why we have employee turnover issues.
Right.
But it will walk through all that. They'll answer it, and then we'll see those areas, right? So the next step is they then drop in and get an accountability coach that they'll be assigned to. They'll have a weekly meeting with them, really short and sweet. What's that?
Another member?
No. It's one of us, right?
On your staff.
A shift spot employee.
Got it.
Right. So that accountability coach will keep them on point. throughout their user experience, right? And they'll onboard them and everything as well. And then they drop into their choice, but we have these groups set up that help them resolve their issues, right? And this is where this comes a little bit from a Vistage community aspect, but it uses a Six Sigma approach of 5 whys to get the root cause, professionally facilitated.
Okay.
And if you can imagine a group of CEOs around together in a room, they'll come to the table with some of their toughest problems. Hey, I got to fire my chief of staff, and I've never have fired such a critical employee. How do I do that?
Right.
And we'll talk through it, facilitate it,
It's
get
like
to a solution.
Alternative board. It's a group of advisors, and you share experiences. Sure.
Yeah.
Therapy.
Yeah.
Business therapy.
Yeah. So we'll facilitate that, give them a solution, and then they can go execute against that. And then every month we have experts drop in, right? So last month was marketing. So our chief marketing guy that was a part of the community last month, he was part of the Oprah show. He created the jingle 1877 Cash Now. I don't know if you know that. The opera singers, I won't sing it. I'm sure you nor your listeners want that. But he did that. He's phenomenal CMO, and he talked through why investing in marketing, why investing in sales during a downtime is actually important, and why companies actually, after the Great Depression and every recession since, the ones that actually doubled down on marketing and sales came out stronger, right? So he went through things like that. Or a new thing these days is how to use marketing to actually increase your brand and attract talent. He talked through those sort of issues. And then next month would be, say, human capital, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you, attract talent? How do you onboard? What the importance of classification. So every month there's a core focus. So it's 144 events spread out through the years, focus on either issues and or professional coaching and the experts every single month. So,
all right. Well, I think you're filling a need that a lot of people get into business. They're just selling stuff, whether it's their services or whatever product they're making, and they're figuring it out. And then they don't recognize that going to the next level involves all these different things that they may not be equipped, to handle. And then it all starts to unravel. They're miserable. Yeah. They don't realize why their employees are leaving. It's just so that you're kind of building it up from there and saying, listen, we can help a lot of people at one time instead of one at a time.
Yeah.
Now, you still have the CFO business.
What's that? You
still do the fractional stuff, or that when?
Oh, I own that business, so others do that. Yeah. Okay. But look, you were just hitting that. I've heard that so many times too, right? It's where somebody starts and they're really good at selling something. Right? Yeah. I had a landscaping client a couple of years ago, and during COVID actually, and his business was exploding. 48% growth. His average projects were 150,000, and that's without a pool, right? So big landscaping things. And it was a mess. It was a mess as people were constantly turning all sorts of problems. The poor guy was working 15-hour plus days.
Because he's a landscaper. He's not a business owner.
Yeah. And he would get so frustrated. He's like, why do my people not understand this? Why do I have to be the one that does everything? How come I still have to sell? And, I told the guy, well, just call him Mike, and that's not his name. It's like, Mike, you didn't duplicate yourself. You didn't build the foundation. You didn't bring in the right people, right? So, you solve everybody's problems. You haven't taught everybody to solve their own problems, right? So it was really those same things repetitive that I saw. And then I looked at, I looked at how CEOs and business owners can get help. And I felt that there was still a void out there, right? So, here's another interesting story, if may I?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So last October, I had these, it was actually longer than that. It was about a year ago. I had these two ladies call me, and they owned a $1.4 million gross virtual admin company.
Okay.
One of them started in sales, and they're co-founders. One of them started as a virtual admin. And they called me. It's like, look, this place is horrible. We both want to go back to just being employees, right? Our employees are a bunch of babies. Everything's out of control. What do we do? And I'm looking at that, and I'm listening to their story. It's like, well, first of all, I can tell you, unfortunately, you probably can't afford me one-on-one, right? Number two, you probably need a fractional HR person, a fractional finance person, a fractional COO. You probably got to wipe out half of your staff and bring in new people. But by the way, you got to know how to interview them and everything else.
The right way.
You need to look at your systems. You need to look at all this stuff, and their eyes are just glazed over. And that's the thing. Also, it's like, look, it's for companies like that. It's not one person. I mean, I'm good at what I do. You're good at what you do. You bring your optics to the table. I bring my optics to the table. But the beauty about the Shift Spot is we actually surround them, not only by the CEOs and the other peers, but the experts and the coaches in the community. We surround them, right, at all times so that they can go through that journey together and grow and get the help that they want, right? So it's pretty cool.
All right, so let's talk about, because what you're doing is you're bringing in people that are in business already for at least a short period of time, and they're messed up, and you're teaching them, fixing them, giving them new, skills and whatever. So let's talk about somebody gets started in business. Maybe it's not even their first business, but what is your advice? Like, how do you get started the right way?
Boy, always focus on the basics, right? I think we get too focused on the wins and the sales and the fun stuff, interacting with the clients. And trust me, revenue solves all problems. I know that.
You think it does, but not always.
Yeah. But do not ignore the boring, right? The boring is all this basic blocking and tackling that, once again, how do I even onboard an employee? How do I actually set them up to succeed? Because cost of losing an employee, there's so much cost associated with that. Right. So I heard this stat not too long ago from Gartner, and this is just a salesperson, but take this salesperson stat and just assume it's half for other roles. Bring on a salesperson, lose them after 6 months across any industry possible. So high-end software guy to shoe salesman on average costs you $968,000 if they do not turn out. Primary reason is lost opportunity cost, right? So I board them, they get going, they're then gone. I recruit another 3 months, get them going. I'm now a year behind. I haven't closed clients.
Right.
I've lost a lot of opportunity. And a sales manager is $4 million. So let's say that other roles are 10% of that.
Right.
I don't care if they're 5% of that.
Right.
It's substantial.
It's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So it's substantial, right? So, focus on the basics, right? And as I'd stated earlier, and in the Shift Spot, we broke it down in very easy areas, right? Leadership and management, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? And helping people become both better leaders and better managers. They're different, right? So systems and processes, why are they important? How to drive efficiencies and effectiveness, et cetera, et cetera. Finances, utilizing KPIs, understanding how to read all my different financial statements and everything.
Successful business owners that I work with, they know their numbers. They know exactly where they are, what they have to do. If they're a commercial cleaning company, they knew exactly how many more jobs they get. They got to add a new crew, and they know all their numbers. But a lot of people don't. They're afraid of math. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And then let's see, human capital, or as most people know, just people. Right. How do we deal with that?
Yeah. Determining what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And are the people that are doing it for you the right people? I'm sure you find that very common, right? People are, maybe they're right for the company, but they're in the wrong position. Sometimes they're not right for the company at all.
Or just simple things. Most people, not most, that's not correct. I've heard a lot of people say, hey, look, we've made most of our staff 1099s just because it's more effective. Well, wait a second. Are they really a 1099, or are you want to pay them that way?
And New Jersey is they've just been clamping down on that even more so.
Yeah. So guess what? You've got 20 employees who are misclassified, and they all live in California. You owe each of them $250,000 plus.
Yeah. Then you got to pay me $50,000 to negotiate your $500,000 fine that you're getting.
Right.
From the DOL. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the final thing that we do that I think is really cool is actually the balance component. Right. So we have experts come in and talk about nutrition and health and all that, and post on that as well. Because look, back in my career, I burnt the candle at both ends, right, as we all do when we're younger.
We're all taught to do that. That's right.
Yeah.
Hard work pays off.
And it's okay if you have to do that short term. Long term, it's going to bite you. And
Term, you can have a heart attack.
you can go about it in a healthy manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
do you, because I'm a big advocate of this, do you help people in the community to write at least a basic business plan? I mean, to lay things out to, a working document where you can go back to your financials and say, where were we? Where are we going? What was our personnel plan? Are we doing it? Are we sticking with it? I find that people don't, put that stuff in writing. They don't have something to look at to go, because we don't remember anything.
Yeah. So we don't do that specifically. However, in the coaching, I talked about the issue section. We have a weekly coaching call as well. And if somebody wanted to bring that to the table and actually focus on how do I build out a business plan, we could work through all the basics, right?
But you're doing the parts. Doesn't have to be a binder with,
I mean, the first thing is, you want to establish your vision, right? Then where do you want to go in 3 years, and then break it down to 1 year, and then break it down to 90-day components.
Right.
What is your target market? What is your niche? So we could actually do that, but I can't say it's something, we call out, you must have a business plan.
Right. No, but what you're doing is you're giving people skills and processes and tools to evaluate. I say there's really 4 things that you got to focus on, and you really just said them, right? There's your product and service, or whatever it is that you make. There's your people, the personnel. Can you do it? Shouldn't you do it? That type of stuff. There's your marketing and your marketplace, and how do you market, and where do they want the product, and will they pay for it? And then your financials. Those are like the 4, main things that you have to focus on that people ignore. They love the marketing piece. They don't do too well with the personnel piece, and they definitely ignore the financial piece. So they're happy about their product and service. They want to do all the fluffy stuff, and they want to do all the marketing that goes with it, and they ignore the other half of their business till it's too late and they're miserable.
And here's the cool thing too. It's actually cool for our coaches and others that drop in. Let's say that you drop in and you're a coach in the community, and we're talking about legal stuff for the month, right? And somebody picks you up. They're like, "Hey, look, I've got a serious legal situation. I need your help. I'd like to hire you on the side." We don't care, and we don't take any money for it. And my partner, I discussed that at the beginning, but it was like, look, we're not CFOs. We're not. We're not these experts, right?
Right.
And if they need more depth, if a CFO is actually in there, we're talking about finances, they need more depth because they're preparing for M&A or whatever, charge on, do it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's pretty cool too.
Yeah. And I think you just help people. It always comes back to you anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Hey, before we get at the end, I do have a special offer for your listeners.
Great.
Want me to do it now?
Sure, if you want to. You want to hold it back? You just dropped a bomb.
So actually, if you go to
for another 10 minutes, and we're not talking about it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So where was I with? I was just going to ask you. Well, you know what? Tell me what the offer is, and then I'll remember.
All right. So we talked about the gap analysis, right? So when I was doing fractional stuff, that's what I used when I engage clients.
Okay.
And it's a $5,000 value.
Okay.
So if you or your listeners go to theshiftspot.com/gap.
Okay. We'll
fill out their information.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yep.
Okay.
Fill out their information for the code, put the accidental entrepreneur for the code. And we're going to pick 2 listeners, and we're going to go through that gap, and we will jump on the phone with them, and we will walk them through some of the areas of opportunity that they can focus on.
Ken, is GAP an acronym, or is it identifying the gaps in your business?
I'm not a marketer, so it's a gap in your businesses.
Well, you said gap analysis. There's gap accounting, and there's
it's not gap accounting.
Right, exactly.
It's to identify the gaps in your company or your business that could be holding you back and preventing you from scaling and adding all that unwanted fun. So
yeah. I got to say, I'm a little jealous because I like doing business advising, and I do a lot of it, for people. A lot of it's legal. It comes back to legal stuff. But, you're really it's exciting when people start to do the right things and, do them the right way, and then start to see results, and their life starts to loosen up, and they improves, and they start to feel like they can breathe again. And there's actually, because they probably, when they come to you, they probably don't think that it's really fixable.
They most of the time they don't. And I'm not kidding you. I mean, I don't know if owners have ever done this with you. You're legal, and I'm coming up more from an operational. So maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I have many times had people ask me, should I just scale backwards? Would it be easier? I
Right.
mean, we have a lady in our community owns a large SEO firm. She's in Germany, actually. And I was on the phone with her about 2 months ago, and she asked me that question. She has 25, 30 employees, which is big for an SEO company.
Yeah.
And she's like, man, this just stinks. I started as an SEO person. I love this. And I started speaking. And then suddenly I have a company and it's my people. I mean, the same stuff. My people are babies. I got to fire somebody. I don't want to fire
Doing the
them.
thing she enjoyed. Right. No,
Yeah.
I get a lot of like, should I shut the company down?
Yeah.
Should I liquidate? Should I go bankrupt?
Yeah.
So, because I
Yeah.
just can't deal with all this.
It's sad, but it can be fixed. And,
Yeah.
it's not your fault. Right. I mean, especially we talked about doctors. I mean, doctors have it tough. They get all this education and then, they have to know all these regulations and all the hiring practices and everything else. I mean, there are places to get help. And,
Yeah.
we like to say that we can fill that void and we fill it better than others.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good to know that there are services out there, and there are. You even mentioned Vistage and some of the other things. If you, but I don't know if it's sad or ironic. The ironic thing is that the people that really need our help,
Yeah.
we don't really get to. It's the people that are open to it and say, I want to fix this. I'm not happy. And, seek out the resources, ask their friend and say, well, you should have talked to Ken at the Shift Spot. He's the guy to go to. It's the people that really need the help that don't always find us.
Well, that's a really good point.
Keep looking for them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, that's a litmus test. If you're going to come to me and look for the silver bullet, it ain't there, right? You got to put in the work too. There's a way through it, but you got to put in the work and you got to want to help yourself and help your company, period.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a friend of mine. He's an entrepreneur, owned several companies, but when he was getting started, I think he had it was either a gym or martial arts studio, whatever. He put his office, like for paperwork, down the road from his business. Like he rented a separate office so he could literally be away from the business. So
it's pretty smart.
It would run. Yeah. Well, he was always he is very smart. He doesn't have somebody who he relies on so much. You ever see those businesses where they have somebody who's now, well, like the example you gave with the COO, the company's so reliant on this person that if they told them, listen, go away for 2 months on a vacation, the whole company would fall apart. And she wanted obviously those controls because she's doing underhanded things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely think Mike Michalowicz is big on that stuff. Like, don't be too dependent on one particular person. That's not.
Yeah,
really
I call it being held hostage. My term is a little more threatening, I guess, but I always tell owners, I said, never allow 100%. Yourself with any employee to be held hostage. Have a backup plan and a backup plan. So when and if something happens, you're prepared.
Yeah. When the person says, hey, why are you making all this money? I want more money. And you're like, you have no choice. And it's definitely a problem. And you don't really have a business if you're relying on one or two people.
You don't.
You just have these people that are wandering around doing stuff and they don't know what they're doing. So
yeah. It hurts your valuation as well. And, but all these things that we're talking about also, and I know that you know this, but a lot of companies don't end up exiting. They just die on the vine too.
Right.
So I was talking to
about
a valuation exit guy, and I may get it wrong. So if I do, I apologize. But last week, I think it's 5%.
It's
5%.
It's very low.
Yeah, 5%. So that means I generated this thing and my kids don't want it and it just dies, right? You put these building blocks in place and work with the Shift Spot and round things out and then map out an exit strategy.
You can do it. Can't do it in 2 weeks, but you can do it if you take a few years of planning. Ken, I think the reason that the statistic is so low is that a lot of people don't even try. Like they could equip their business if they had 3 to 5 years to do it the right way and manage their books the right way and have clean financials and things like that, but they don't even think it's possible, or they just, peter out and they don't try. So it ends up being look, I do a lot of work for business brokers. People are selling, and you get these businesses that are like, I call it magic math. They're like cobbling things together and trying to convince people why the business is profitable, even if it doesn't show a profit.
Yeah.
Not showing a profit for tax purposes. And they got everybody and their grandmother on the payroll. So they're paying for cars and this. Look, once you buy the business, you're not going to have all these people on the payroll and paying these people, and you're going to be making, $1 million and $1.5 million of profit. And you're like, yeah, but you're showing a loss right now.
Yeah.
And, it becomes a very difficult. You don't
they
have
want a multiple that's unreasonable, right? What do you mean I'm only worth 2x, right? EBITDA, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
But you could have a higher multiple if you managed yourself well and you did all the right things and had the systems in place. And, that's,
it takes planning, man.
Yeah,
And honestly, if you're going to exit, it can be I don't know your experience, but 2 to 3 year process and just improving and getting those things in place to be able to get to a point where you have a good valuation.
Yeah. Look, there's PE companies that buy companies with the sole goal of increasing the multiple that they can sell it for. If the industry's 3 to 4, they want to be 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12. Yeah. And they do it that way because they know what they're doing. So whatever. Well, Ken,
they've got some smart actuary running numbers for them.
These guys are bean counters, but I can't thank you enough. I know you're on the East Coast too, so I know it's Friday. Oh, it's sunny now. It was
good.
Literally thundering and lightning so bad I thought it was going to knock the power out. We weren't going to be able to do this podcast, but now it passed. So you're outside of Atlanta. How close to Atlanta?
Yeah, Sandy Springs. Boy, how far? Anywhere from 30 minutes to 4 hours, depending on traffic.
God, Georgia's the worst with traffic with Atlanta. I have cousins in Alpharetta, just north of.
Yeah. That's not far at all.
It could be 20 minutes or 4 hours. So
yeah, that's not far. I lived up there. I just moved to Sandy Springs not too long ago.
Nice. Well, if I'm ever down in the area, I'll look you up. I appreciate it.
That.
I'll put the link in the show notes for the code and the whole thing.
Awesome.
And definitely stay in touch because I love sharing stories and ideas. And if you ever want to, you got somebody who needs some advice, I'm happy to do it. And speakers and stuff.
That'd be great. And ping me when your book is officially out.
I definitely will. It should have been already, waiting for the publisher, but we're little guys. They don't care. So we'll see.
All right, cool.
All right, Ken. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinhacker and produced by Beinhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.